The stars stretched endlessly before Captain Elias Ward as he sat in the pilot's chair of his small exploration ship, Aurora's Light. He had seen many skies during his service in the Earth Expedition Fleet, but every time he left orbit and entered deep space, his heart filled with the same quiet wonder. To him, the galaxy was not just a map of stars and planets, it was alive, full of voices waiting to be heard, stories waiting to be told, and bridges waiting to be built between civilizations that often misunderstood each other. Elias had been chosen for a mission of great importance. After years of tension, the humans of Earth and the alien empire known as the Thriari had agreed to meet face-to-face on neutral ground. Both sides had signed treaties before, but the paper agreements never lasted. Distrust lingered and wars often loomed just beyond the horizon. This time the stakes were higher. If the meeting succeeded, it could open trade routes, cultural exchanges, and most importantly, peace between two powerful peoples. The chosen place for this meeting was a quiet moon orbiting a gas giant called Arathis. From space, the moon looked pale and calm, its surface covered with silver plains and ridges of dark stone. Its thin atmosphere shimmered faintly, and a series of domes had been built on its surface to host the diplomatic gathering. The domes were neutral territory, untouched by either government, maintained by a group of independent mediators. Elias was not a politician. He was not even a high-ranking officer. He was a captain because he had flown ships for most of his life, and because he had a reputation for courage, honesty, and a steady mind. His job on this mission was simple: escort and protect the human delegation. But fate, he would soon discover, had other plans for him. The docking procedure went smoothly. Aurora's Light landed beside the other ships in the open field near the domes. The air was thin but breathable with light assistance from their helmets, so the delegates and guards disembarked, walking toward the main hall. Elias followed behind them, scanning the area with calm eyes. The Thriari delegation had already arrived. They were tall, slender beings with shimmering skin that shifted in shades of blue and violet depending on the light. Their eyes were larger than human eyes, glowing faintly with golden hues. They wore ceremonial armor that looked both elegant and ancient, decorated with silver patterns. Despite their graceful appearance, the Thriari were known as fierce warriors and proud rulers of many star systems. At the center of their group stood a figure who instantly drew every gaze, Queen Xylaria herself. She was the ruler of the Thriari Empire, and her presence carried the weight of countless worlds. Her crown was not made of gold but of woven crystal strands that pulsed with light, as if alive. Her expression was calm, but her eyes carried strength, wisdom, and something else Elias could not yet name. She was surrounded by her guards, and near her side was a smaller figure, a child. Elias noticed the child immediately, for children were rarely brought to diplomatic meetings. The little one clung shyly to the queen's flowing robes, her skin glowing a lighter shade of blue than the others. Her eyes, wide with innocence, darted around curiously at the humans, though she stayed close to her mother. Elias softened when he saw her. In his heart, he had always believed that the future of peace depended not on leaders or generals, but on the children who could grow up without hate. He wondered if the queen had brought her daughter here for the same reason, to remind both sides that the next generation deserved better than endless suspicion and war. The ceremony began inside the main dome. Human and Thriari leaders exchanged words, their voices polite but filled with tension. Every phrase was measured, every promise heavy with unspoken doubts. Elias stood near the back, his hand resting lightly on his sidearm, watching the room for any sign of danger. Then it happened. A sound cut through the hall, sharp, metallic, and fast. Elias's instincts screamed before his mind had time to catch up. A projectile had been fired, slicing the air with deadly intent. It was aimed not at a human, not at a guard, but at the child standing near the queen. In that moment, time seemed to slow. The child froze, her golden eyes wide with fear. The queen's hand reached out too late. The guards moved, but they were not close enough. The poisoned arrow, a weapon designed to slip past most energy shields, sped toward the child's chest. Elias moved. He did not think about politics, treaties, or consequences. He only thought about the terrified little girl who did not deserve to die. His boots pounded the floor as he pushed himself forward, faster than he ever had before. With a burst of strength, he leapt between the arrow and the child, his arm swinging up. The arrow struck his shoulder, tearing through fabric and biting into flesh. Pain flared hot and sharp, but Elias did not stop. With his other arm, he scooped the child into his chest and rolled to the side, shielding her from further harm. The hall erupted in chaos. Guards shouted, weapons were drawn, alarms blared. The child trembled in his arms, her small hands clutching his uniform. Elias whispered, "You're safe. I've got you. Don't be afraid." The queen rushed forward, her eyes blazing with both fury and fear. For a moment, the mighty ruler was not a queen but simply a mother. She knelt beside Elias, her hand hovering protectively over her daughter, then resting gently on the child's head. The girl was unharmed, thanks to the human who had thrown himself in front of her. Elias winced as the arrow's poison burned through his veins. He fought to stay conscious. Around him, guards secured the area, hunting for the assassin who had fled into the shadows. The human delegation rushed forward, both shocked and alarmed. Queen Xylaria's golden eyes fixed on Elias. There was no arrogance in her gaze now, no distance of royalty. There was something far deeper, recognition. She had seen warriors in her lifetime, men and women who fought for glory, power, or duty. But this human had moved not for reward, not for recognition, but for the pure and selfless instinct to protect a child who was not even his own species. "Hold him steady," one of the human medics shouted, rushing with equipment. But before they could begin their work, the queen raised her hand. "No," she said firmly, her voice echoing with command. "I will see to him myself." The hall went silent. No one had ever heard of the Queen of the Thriari lowering herself to tend to a human. Yet she did not care. She touched Elias's wound with her glowing hands, and a faint shimmer of light spread over the injury, slowing the poison's spread. It was not a complete healing, but it kept him alive. "Why?" Elias managed to whisper, struggling to keep his eyes open. The queen's expression softened just for a moment. "Because you saved what is most precious to me." When the hall finally calmed, the leaders tried to resume the talks, but everyone knew something had changed. The attempted assassination had turned the meeting into a storm of suspicion. Yet at the heart of it all was the image no one could forget, a human captain shielding the alien queen's child with his own body. For Elias, the world blurred as he drifted into unconsciousness, the child's tearful face the last thing he saw. For Queen Xylaria, however, something new had taken root in her heart, a thought she had never considered before. Perhaps humans were not as weak and selfish as her advisors claimed. Perhaps among the stars there was something unique about them. And perhaps, just perhaps, this single man had already changed the future of two civilizations. The quiet hum of medical machines filled the recovery chamber. The walls were curved and glowing faintly with pale blue light, designed to calm the nerves and keep the air rich with oxygen. Elias Ward lay on a medical bed, his arm strapped gently to prevent movement. The arrow wound in his shoulder had been cleaned and sealed, but traces of the poison still lingered. Without immediate care, he might not have survived the night. He woke slowly, his eyes opening to the strange ceiling. For a moment, he forgot where he was. Then the memory of the hall returned, the flash of the arrow, the terrified child, the queen's face hovering over him. His body ached, but his mind was clear. He had survived. A soft sound drew his attention. At the far side of the chamber stood Queen Xylaria. She was tall, her crystal crown shimmering faintly, her robes flowing like liquid silver. Yet her posture was not that of a ruler here. She stood in silence, her golden eyes studying him. Elias struggled to sit up, but pain flared in his shoulder. The queen raised her hand gently. "Do not strain yourself, Captain Ward," she said, her voice calm but carrying authority. "The poison is stubborn. You will need time to recover." He gave a faint smile. "I'm alive, so I'll take your word for it." She tilted her head slightly, almost curious. "Alive because you risked yourself for my daughter." Elias looked down. Any soldier, any parent, anyone with a heart would have done the same. "No," the queen replied, her voice firm. "Not anyone. Many warriors protect their own, few protect those who are strangers, and none that I have known would risk themselves for a child not of their blood, not of their kind." Her words carried weight. Elias felt her gaze pierce him, searching for answers he did not have. He had not thought about what he did. It had been instinct, nothing more. But the queen seemed to see it as something greater. Moments later, the door to the chamber opened. The young Thriari child entered, accompanied by two guards. She rushed forward, her steps light, her golden eyes wide. "Mother," she whispered, then looked at Elias. Is he hurt badly?" Elias smiled gently at her. "I've had worse," he said, though the truth was otherwise. The girl's presence alone made his pain easier to bear. The Queen rested a hand on her daughter's shoulder. "This is Captain Ward," she told her softly. "He is the one who protected you." The child bowed her head shyly, her small hands twisting nervously. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I was so scared." Elias felt a warmth in his chest that had nothing to do with medicine. "You're safe now. That's all that matters." For a long moment the Queen watched the exchange. Something stirred in her heart, something she had not expected. For years, she had been told that humans were too fragile, too selfish, too unpredictable to be trusted. Yet here was proof before her eyes. A human who had acted with more courage than many of her own guards. Later that day, the Queen summoned Elias to a private garden dome attached to the complex. It was a quiet place filled with plants from different worlds, trees with silver leaves, flowers that glowed softly in the dark, streams of water running over polished stones. She walked beside him slowly, allowing him to move at his injured pace. The guards kept their distance, close enough to protect but far enough to give space. "Your actions have caused much talk among my council," she began. "Some call you brave, others call you reckless, and some believe you acted with secret intent." Elias chuckled softly. "Secret intent? To get shot with an arrow?" The Queen's lips curved into something that might have been the ghost of a smile. "They fear you may have staged the event to earn my trust." Elias shook his head firmly. "That's absurd. I didn't plan anything. I just saw a child in danger. That's all." Xylaria studied him carefully. Her people were skilled at reading truth from lies. And in Elias's eyes she saw no deception, only sincerity. "You speak plainly," she said at last. "That is unusual among diplomats." "I'm not a diplomat," Elias replied. "I'm just a captain. I fly ships, I protect my crew, and sometimes I get in trouble." The Queen let out a faint sound, almost like a laugh, but restrained. "Yet you changed the course of this meeting more than any diplomat here." They paused near a pool where tiny luminous fish swam in circles. The Queen stood tall, her robes brushing the ground like water. Elias felt the air between them grow heavier, not with hostility but with unspoken thoughts. "Do you understand what you did, Captain?" she asked quietly. "I saved a child," he answered simply. "You saved my heir," she corrected. "The future of my empire. Without her, chaos would tear through my people. Rivals would rise, wars would begin. By saving her, you did not just protect a child, you preserved a dynasty." Elias blinked, realizing the full weight of his act. "I didn't think about all that, I just couldn't let her die." The Queen's golden eyes softened. "That is why it matters. You acted not for gain, but for what you believed was right." Meanwhile, beyond the garden dome, rumors spread quickly. Among the Thryari nobles, suspicion grew. Some argued that the Queen was allowing herself to be swayed by a human. Others whispered that the human's bravery was a trick to win influence. On the human side, the delegation was both proud and uneasy. Proud that one of their own had acted with such courage, but uneasy that the Thryari Queen now seemed personally interested in a single human captain. They feared politics would twist the event into something dangerous, but inside the garden none of that mattered. As evening fell, the Queen led Elias back to the main hall. A small private meal had been arranged. The food was alien to him, fruits that glowed faintly, bread that shimmered with blue grains, and water that sparkled like liquid crystal. Elias tasted carefully. To his surprise, the food was sweet and refreshing. "Not bad," he said, smiling. The Queen tilted her head. "Not bad. Among my people, this is considered sacred." Elias raised a brow. "Then I'm honored." For the first time, the Queen allowed herself to truly smile. It was brief, but it softened her features in a way Elias had never seen before. After the meal, she spoke quietly. "Captain Ward, I owe you more than words. My daughter lives because of you. My empire stands because of you. Tell me, what is it you desire in return?" Elias frowned, taken aback. "Desire? I don't want anything. I didn't do it for reward." "That makes it harder," the Queen said softly. "For those who act without seeking reward are the ones who change history." Her words lingered in the air long after the meeting ended. That night, as Elias returned to his quarters, He looked out of the dome's transparent walls at the endless stars. He had never felt so small and yet so strangely important. He had acted on instinct. But that single moment had set something in motion far greater than himself. Somewhere in the chambers beyond, Queen Xylaria sat with her daughter, her thoughts restless. She had seen courage before, but never like this. For the first time in many years, the Queen of the Threari found herself questioning her own people's pride. The morning after the attack, the silver moon was no longer calm. The halls of the domes echoed with footsteps, raised voices, and the tense hum of security systems. Word of the assassination attempt had already spread far beyond the neutral ground. Across the galaxy, humans and Threari alike whispered about the event. Some praised the courage of the human captain. Others doubted the truth. And many feared that this moment could either unite or divide their civilizations forever. Captain Elias Ward walked slowly through one of the domes, his injured shoulder bandaged tightly. The medics had told him to rest, but staying still was never his way. He needed to keep moving to feel useful. As he passed through the corridors, he could feel the stares of both humans and Threari. Some nodded in respect. Others narrowed their eyes with suspicion. To Elias, none of that mattered. He thought only of the little Threari child whose life he had saved. He could still hear her small voice saying thank you. Still remember how tightly she had clung to him when the danger had passed. That was enough reason for what he had done. But politics did not see things so simply. In the main council chamber, human and Threari leaders argued bitterly. The hall was large and filled with banners from both civilizations. The mediators who had built the neutral domes tried to maintain order, but tension crackled like fire in dry grass. One human delegate slammed his hand on the table. "We demand to know who orchestrated this attack. Was it a Threari plot to make us look weak?" A Threari noble shot back, his voice sharp. "Do not insult us. It was your people who benefited most from this spectacle. A human throws himself into danger and suddenly he is a hero in our queen's eyes. How convenient." The room erupted in shouts. Fingers pointed. Accusations flew. Elias stood at the edge of the chamber, watching quietly. He knew this was how politics worked. Words like weapons, each one sharp and heavy. But deep down he hated it. He had no patience for endless arguments while lives were at stake. Then the great doors opened and silence fell. Queen Xylaria entered, her daughter close at her side. The queen's presence alone was enough to silence the room. Her golden eyes swept across the delegates, and for a moment, no one dared speak. "The attack was not a human plot," she declared firmly, "nor was it the will of my people. It was the work of cowards who fear peace, and we will not allow their fear to guide our future." Her words carried strength, but not all were convinced. Several nobles muttered among themselves, their distrust plain. One of them stepped forward. "My queen, with respect, you place too much faith in this human. He saved your child, yes, but how do we know it was not arranged? How do we know he is not a pawn of Earth, sent here to win your favor?" Gasps echoed through the chamber. The accusation was sharp, and though it was not shouted, it cut like a blade. Elias's jaw tightened. He wanted to speak, but the queen raised her hand. "Enough," she said coldly. "I saw him throw himself into danger without thought for his own life. I saw his blood spilled on this floor. That was no performance. That was truth." The hall fell silent again, though the unease did not vanish. Later, in a quieter room, Elias found himself face to face with several human officials. They surrounded him, their expressions stern. "You've become the center of this entire meeting," one said. "Do you realize what that means?" Elias folded his arms. "I didn't ask for it. I just did what anyone should have done." "Not anyone," another replied sharply. "You made us look desperate, like we send men to throw themselves into danger for approval. Now the Queen looks at you as if you represent all of Earth." Elias shook his head. "I don't represent anyone but myself." But the officials exchanged uneasy glances. They knew the truth. Whether Elias wanted it or not, he had become a symbol. And symbols carried weight heavier than any starship. That evening, Elias walked alone in the garden dome. The glowing plants swayed gently in the artificial breeze, their colors reflecting on the glass walls. He needed the quiet to clear his thoughts. He had not wanted fame or suspicion or endless political games. He had only wanted to protect a child. Yet now his act had stirred a storm larger than himself. Footsteps sounded behind him. He turned and found Queen Xylaria approaching. She walked without guards, her robes trailing softly. Her daughter was not with her this time. "Captain Ward," she said softly. Elias bowed slightly, though he still felt strange around her. "Your Majesty." She studied him for a long moment before speaking again. "You are troubled," Elias sighed. "Your council thinks I staged everything. My people think I made us look weak, and all I did was what felt right. I don't understand any of this." The Queen's eyes softened. "That is because you are not used to the weight of politics. Actions are twisted. Motives are doubted. Yet I believe you." Elias met her gaze. "Why?" "Because I have ruled long enough to know the difference between those who act for gain and those who act from the heart," she said. "And you, Captain, acted from the heart." Her words eased something inside him. For the first time since the attack, he felt truly understood. But even as they spoke, shadows moved elsewhere. In secret chambers, 3 nobles whispered of plots. Some feared that the Queen's growing interest in a human would weaken her rule. Others feared that peace with Earth would take away their power. "Already she speaks of him with respect," one hissed. "Already she allows his name to be praised. If this continues, she will tie our empire to Earth. And then what becomes of us?" Their whispers turned to plans, and plans turned to schemes. The assassination attempt had failed, but they would not give up so easily. The next day, Elias was invited again to dine with the Queen. This time, it was in a small chamber, private and quiet. The food was simple: fruit, bread, and a warm drink that smelled of spice. As they ate, the Queen asked him questions. Not about politics, but about Earth. "What is it like?" she asked. "Your homeworld." Elias smiled faintly. "It's beautiful when we're not busy fighting ourselves. Blue oceans, green forests, mountains covered in snow. And the sky? The sky is always open, always changing. I think you'd like it." She listened intently, her golden eyes reflecting curiosity. "Do your people value children as much as you do?" "More than anything," Elias said firmly. "We argue, we fight, we make mistakes. But in the end, we all want the same thing: to give the next generation a better life." The Queen looked down, thoughtful. "Perhaps that is where your strength lies. Not in weapons, not in power, but in heart." Elias chuckled softly. "That's one way to put it." Their meal ended, but their conversation lingered. Day by day, the Queen found herself drawn to speak with him more. She asked of his journeys, his dreams, his failures. He asked of her empire, her burdens, her hopes for her people. Through their words, a bridge formed, a bridge not of treaties or laws, but of understanding. Yet outside those quiet rooms, distrust grew sharper. One evening, as Elias returned to his quarters, he found a message slipped under his door. The writing was rough, the language a mixture of human and 3 symbols. "Beware. Not all who smile are friends. The Queen's enemies watch you. Trust no one." Elias frowned, his instincts on edge. He tucked the message away. Whoever had written it, they had risked much to warn him. He looked out the window at the stars, his thoughts heavy. He had wanted peace. He had wanted to build bridges. But now he was caught in the center of something darker, and somewhere deep inside he knew. The next storm was already on its way. The moon's surface had grown colder, and the stars above shimmered like distant lanterns. Captain Elias Ward walked through the corridors of the diplomatic complex, his shoulder healing but still stiff. The quiet calm of the last days was gone. Suspicion hung in every hall, whispers of plots echoing in the minds of both humans and 3. He had spent much of the morning reviewing security reports with the Queen's advisors. Strange anomalies had been noted. Unexplained movements near the royal quarters, missing guards for hours, encrypted messages intercepted but partially erased. Someone had planned another attack. Elias knew it immediately without seeing the full details. The Queen herself had sensed it, though she had not spoken aloud. Her golden eyes carried a tension he had never seen before, a mixture of concern, focus, and trust in him that no one else dared to claim. "You sense it too," she said quietly as he approached the private garden dome. Her daughter played nearby, her laughter a rare sound that made Elias's heart lighten for a moment. "I do," Elias replied. "Someone wants to hurt you. They may strike soon, and it will not be subtle this time." Xylaria nodded. "Then we prepare, but—"
She hesitated, looking at him with something like doubt mixed with resolve.
"Captain Ward, if this comes to pass, I need you to make choices. Choices that may endanger yourself." Elias's jaw tightened. "I won't let them harm you or the child. I won't." The Queen's hand rested on his arm briefly. "I believe you, but you must be ready." That evening, the palace was alive with ceremony. Delegates from across the galaxy gathered in a large hall, filled with light and color. Music floated softly in the air, blending with the hum of alien conversations. The Queen moved gracefully among her people, greeting dignitaries with calm composure, her daughter holding her hand closely. Elias remained at the edge of the hall, eyes scanning the crowd. He noticed a small figure moving unusually, someone dressed in the attire of a diplomat, yet their gaze shifted constantly, watching the Queen and him. His instincts tightened. This was no ordinary guest. Moments later he saw it, a glimmer of metal, subtle but sharp. A small blade had been hidden beneath the person's robe. The assassin moved with skill, weaving between the crowd, aiming for a moment when the Queen would be least protected. Elias's mind went into action. He moved silently, weaving through the crowd, keeping the Queen in sight. Each step was careful but quick. He had no time to shout, no time to draw attention. The people around were oblivious, enjoying the music, unaware of the danger inching closer. Then the blade struck, but Elias was faster. He dove forward, pushing the Queen to the side and blocking the blade with his forearm. Pain flared as the assassin twisted the weapon, but Elias gritted his teeth and held firm. The Queen stumbled behind him, her golden eyes wide with surprise and gratitude. The crowd erupted in chaos. Guards rushed in, but the assassin was clever, moving with agility and skill. Elias realized that they were trained, not an amateur. Every strike he blocked, every step he took, kept the Queen and her child alive. "Stay behind me," he shouted. "I've got this." The child's small hands clutched her mother's robes, her eyes wide with fear. Silaria raised a hand, summoning guards to form a protective circle around her daughter. Yet her eyes never left Elias, a silent acknowledgement of trust and faith in him. The battle was swift but intense. The assassin lunged again, aiming for the Queen's chest. Elias intercepted, rolling and throwing himself between the blade and her. Pain shot through his arm and side, but he refused to yield. The guards finally converged, restraining the attacker, and the hall erupted into applause. Not for the fight, but for the courage displayed. Elias fell to one knee, breathing heavily. The Queen knelt beside him. "You have risked your life again," she said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "Why?" "Because you and your daughter are alive," Elias said simply. "Nothing else matters." Her golden eyes softened. "Many of my own guards would not have acted as you did." "You are extraordinary, Captain Ward." Elias gave a small, exhausted smile. "I just do what I must." After the attack, the Queen called an emergency council. The conspirators were exposed. Nobles who feared the growing influence of humans who wanted to undermine her rule by making Earth look weak or incapable. Their plot had been clever, but Elias's instincts and courage had foiled it. During the council, the Queen stood tall, her presence commanding the room. These individuals sought to end peace before it could begin. They believed fear and suspicion would guide my decisions. They were wrong. And thanks to Captain Ward, none of us fell into their trap. The room went silent. Few dared to speak, though whispers carried through the corners. Some were humbled, some were furious, but all knew that the human had proven himself in a way few could. Elias remained near the back, quiet and humble. He did not seek praise, though many offered it. His concern had been for life, for honor, for the bridge of trust between species. Later in the private garden dome, the Queen finally allowed herself to speak freely. Her daughter played nearby, unaware of the dangers that had threatened her. "Captain Ward," she said quietly, "you have risked your life not once, but twice, to protect my people, my child, and myself. Few could do what you have done. I do not know how to repay you." Elias shook his head. "I don't need repayment. I only hope that we can prevent such things in the future." The Queen approached him, her expression serious. "You are more than a protector. You are a symbol of courage, of trust, and of the hope that humans and Threari can stand together. I wish for more than words to honor you, but I see now that actions speak louder than words." He met her gaze, realizing that she truly understood. The danger had been real, the risk enormous. And yet, she did not fear him, she trusted him. "That is all I need," he said softly. The days following the failed conspiracy were tense but hopeful. Security measures increased, but not at the expense of diplomacy. Meetings continued, trade discussions resumed, and cultural exchanges were scheduled. Yet the Queen and Elias shared quiet moments where trust was quietly reinforced. Conversations that no one else could witness, where they spoke of honor, duty, and the fragility of peace. Elias began to understand the weight of leadership more than ever. Protecting a child was not simply an act of courage. It had consequences that rippled through politics, culture, and the very heart of empires. And for the Queen, a seed had been planted. She saw a human not as a foreign species, not as a potential threat, but as someone who could stand beside her in ways her own people might never understand. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the horizon, Elias and the Queen walked through the quiet gardens. The child slept nearby in a protective chamber. "You have changed something," Celeria said softly. "Not just for me, but for my people. They will speak of your bravery for years to come. But more than that, you have reminded me that courage is not measured in size or strength or lineage. It is measured in the heart." Elias smiled faintly. "I only did what I could. You inspire courage in everyone around you." The Queen stopped, her eyes studying him carefully. "Captain Ward, you are human, and yet in my eyes you have proven qualities I have sought in my kind for generations. I will not forget this." He met her gaze, feeling the gravity of her words. For a moment, the distance between their worlds seemed to shrink, replaced by trust, respect, and something neither fully named. As night fell, the stars reflected in the pools of water throughout the garden. The future remained uncertain, and conspiracies might arise again. But one truth was clear. Elias Ward, a human captain from a distant planet, had proven his loyalty, courage, and heart in ways that could not be denied. And Queen Xylaria, ruler of the Thryari Empire, had seen something rare in him, a light of humanity that could shine across the galaxy. Even in the darkest of times, the bridge between their worlds had been tested, and for now it had held strong. The sun of the silver moon rose slowly over the horizon, casting pale light across the domes of the diplomatic complex. The stars faded, but their distant glow still whispered of faraway worlds. Captain Elias Ward sat quietly in his quarters, sipping a warm drink that soothed his shoulder and muscles. Though the attacks and conspiracies had passed, he could feel the weight of the past days pressing on him. He had been hailed as a hero, though he did not feel like one. The gratitude of the Thryari Queen and her daughter warmed his heart, but whispers among both human and Thryari officials reminded him that admiration often came with suspicion. His life was no longer his own. He had become a symbol. A soft sound at the door made him look up. The door opened, and a guard stepped in. "Captain Ward," the guard said respectfully, "the Queen requests your presence in the Great Hall. There is an announcement she wishes to make." Elias stood slowly. Though his shoulder still throbbed, he nodded. "I'll be there." The Great Hall was unlike anything Elias had seen before. It was vast, with high ceilings that shimmered like the surface of water. Crystal chandeliers floated in the air, casting soft rainbows across the crowd of delegates, guards, and attendants. The Thryari and human delegates had gathered together, their eyes flicking between the Queen and him. Whispers ran through the crowd, questions and curiosity mixing with admiration. Queen Xylaria stepped onto the raised dais at the center. She wore ceremonial robes of deep violet, woven with strands of silver and crystal that caught the light with every movement. Her daughter stood beside her, looking small yet radiant in her presence. Elias felt his chest tighten as he took in the scene. The Queen had always commanded attention, but today the room was filled with a sense of history in the making. She raised her hand and silence fell like a soft curtain over the crowd. Even the human delegates, used to endless arguments and debates, held their breath. "People of the Thryari Empire," the Queen began, her voice calm yet carrying authority that demanded respect. "We have faced challenges, doubts, and threats to our peace. Yet through all of this, one individual has shown courage, loyalty, and honor beyond measure." Elias felt the eyes of the room turn toward him. He kept his head low, feeling uncomfortable with the attention. "Captain Elias Ward," the Queen continued, "has risked his life not once but twice to protect my daughter, my people, and myself. His actions have proven that humanity possesses qualities I have long sought: courage, honor, and a heart unafraid to act when needed. A murmur ran through the crowd, some astonished, others impressed. Elias shifted nervously, unsure of how to respond. The Queen's golden eyes locked on his, and so today I do more than speak words of praise. I step forward to recognize this human not just as an ally, but as a champion of the throne, a symbol of trust, courage, and unity between our worlds. Gasps echoed through the hall. Some of the Thryari nobles were visibly shocked. Humans whispered among themselves in disbelief. Elias's mind struggled to comprehend what she was saying. Champion of the throne, he murmured softly to himself. Yes, the Queen said firmly. A title never granted lightly. A role not of command but of honor. One who has demonstrated qualities rare among my people, and even rarer among those from distant worlds. You, Captain Ward, embody what is best in humanity. Elias's shoulders stiffened. His mind raced. He had acted out of instinct, not ambition. He had risked his life to protect a child, never imagining it would lead to such recognition. I don't know what to say, he managed, his voice quiet. Do not speak, the Queen replied softly. Your actions speak louder than any words. Today, all who witness this moment must understand that courage and honor transcend species, planets, and governments. They are universal. The Queen's daughter stepped forward, holding out a small ceremonial pendant. Its surface glowed faintly, etched with symbols of both Thryari and human design. This is for you, Captain Ward, the child said shyly, so you always remember that you are brave, and that we trust you. Elias knelt slightly to accept it, careful not to bow too low to the young Thryari heir. Thank you, he said, his voice warm. I will keep it always. The Queen smiled, a rare, genuine expression that seemed to light the entire hall. Let this moment be a symbol. Let all who witness it remember that bridges can be built, and that one person's courage can change the future of many. Delegates whispered. Guards straightened, and for a moment all tension in the hall seemed to vanish. History was being written not in words on paper, but in acts of bravery and trust. After the ceremony, Elias was led to a private chamber by the Queen. The child played nearby, her laughter soft and carefree. The Queen closed the door behind them. Captain Ward, she said quietly, you have earned more than titles or praise. You have earned my respect and my trust, and in a way that few outsiders ever do. You have earned a place close to me, not as a subject, not as a guest, but as someone who shares in the future of my people. Elias looked at her, understanding the weight of her words. I don't know what to say. Then say nothing, the Queen replied. Only remember that what you have done matters, and that the bridge between our worlds, fragile though it may be, now has a foundation built on courage, trust, and honor. He nodded quietly. I will remember. The following days were filled with celebration and renewed hope. Humans and Thryari alike shared meals, stories, and ideas. Trade agreements were signed, cultural exchanges began, and plans for joint projects in science and exploration were drafted. Everywhere he went, Elias noticed small changes. A nod from a Thryari soldier, a respectful glance from a noble, a smile from someone who had witnessed his courage firsthand. Yet, even amidst celebration, Elias remained grounded. He spent time with the Queen and her daughter, talking, walking through the gardens, and learning more about Thryari culture. The Queen confided in him about the burdens of leadership, the challenges of ruling an empire, and her hopes for a future where humans and Thryari could coexist peacefully. You have shown me that humans are capable of greatness, she said one evening as they watched the twin moons rise. Not through power, but through choice, through courage, through heart. Elias smiled faintly. I only did what I believed was right. If that is enough to inspire hope, then I am grateful. She looked at him with her golden eyes, serious yet warm. It is more than enough. It is a lesson for all of us. In the quiet moments that followed, Elias realized something profound. His actions, though seemingly small and instinctive, had sparked change not only in one person but across worlds. A human and an alien, once strangers, now shared understanding and respect. What had begun as a single act to save a child had grown into a bridge of trust, a bond that might endure for generations. The galaxy beyond the moon remained vast and uncertain. Conflicts, challenges, and dangers were still out there, waiting among the stars. But Elias knew that courage, honor, and trust could shine brighter than any weapon, stronger than any fear. And with Queen Xylaria by his side, not as a ruler over him, but as an ally, a friend, and perhaps more. He felt ready to face whatever came next. As the final ceremonies concluded, the Queen publicly recognized Elias one more time. Not just to her people, but to the assembled human and Threari delegates. "Let this day be remembered," she declared, "as the day courage and honor overcame fear. Let it be remembered that a human, a captain from a distant world, risked all to protect what was precious to us. And let it be remembered that trust can build bridges stronger than any wall, stronger than any weapon, stronger than any doubt." The hall erupted in applause, voices blending into a chorus of hope. Elias stood quietly, humbled yet proud, understanding that the galaxy had witnessed something extraordinary. One man's fearless act had changed the course of history, and somewhere deep in his heart, he knew that this was only the beginning. Outside the dome, the stars shimmered endlessly, a reminder that the universe was vast, full of challenges but also full of possibilities. And in the heart of it all, a human and an alien queen had taken the first steps toward a future where courage, honor, and heart could truly connect worlds. The Queen's hand rested briefly on his shoulder as they walked back to her private chambers. The child ran ahead, laughing freely, unafraid. Elias smiled softly, feeling the warmth of trust and friendship, knowing that what had started as a single act of bravery would echo through the stars forever.